Okay, so as those who need to go pick their headset do, I'd like to start this session. So this is the wrap-up and reporting session. Basically, we want to give a summary of what happened most of yesterday. As you all know, yesterday after the openings keynote sessions, we broke up into three panels or tracks, as we call them, looking at the um, technical and infrastructure, governance, and development components of internet development. And so we have the rapporteurs, or the people who will report on behalf of those three tracks. And so to get us started off, because we don't have a lot of time, we will start with a technical track that will let us know what they covered through the panel session and then into the roundtables. So for the benefit of those who are not here, the first thing we did, we went into a panel session where we had experts provide some moderated discussion around the issues. And then out of that, there were identified about 3 priority areas or 3 focus areas. And the roundtables took those 3 focus areas and took a deep dive in the afternoon to find ways or provide recommendations of what can be done by the key stakeholders. And the objective here is that from the recommendations you will see, we'll produce a report and share it with all the stakeholders so that they can take actions in the areas where they are actively engaged in or actively involved. So there will be roles and opportunities for all the stakeholders in Ethiopia to do something in contributing to the internet development in this country. And this is largely as a result of the anticipated market development that is bound to happen with the opening up of the space. So without further ado, I'd like to invite my colleague Ghislain Nkeramugaba, who was the moderator of the technical track.
I think it's a good afternoon at this time. We're still in the morning. So, hello everyone. My name is Ghislain Nkeramugaba. I was moderating the technical track, and it was a pleasure as well to participate in this event. So basically, the objective of the track was to look at the main focus area where I would say the country should focus as far as technical aspects are concerned, and to move forward. So these are the panelists. We were together yesterday: Merit Bekele, Zelalem, Dawit, and Ben from Facebook. And I want really to say thank you to those panelists because they really contributed with their experience with the with the round tables in the afternoon. So basically, these are the main topics we focused on: the last mile infrastructure, the core backbone, optical infrastructure, local exchange and regional global internet, data center and local web hosting services, aspects regarding engineering skills, how to upscale them, improve them, and the aspects regarding R&D. So because we had to focus on 3 main areas, these are the 3 main areas we focused on to develop the recommendations. Okay. So as far as last mile infrastructure is concerned, probably to tell the audience what last mile infrastructure is all about, it's whatever technology connects the end user. So what needs to be done? What are the recommendations? What needs to be done to improve last mile connectivity? So the first recommendation was about everything to facilitate the importation of CPE, customer premises equipment, or any network access equipments that facilitate the last mile connectivity. So when we talk about last mile connectivity, we talk about 3G, 4G, 5G, FTTH, fiber to the home, and all those kind of things. So when there is tax incentives, it will facilitate the deployment of the last mile infrastructure. The second thing was about public Wi-Fi or the use of telecenters. So, and more especially in remote areas, because when there is public Wi-Fi, when there is telecenters, people get used to internet, and we create in them demand, or we create in them a thirst to demand more. So whenever they go home, whenever they're using their phone, they want more, they want to use more of the internet. The last action was about promoting the deployment of deployment models that enable mutualized access infrastructure. So in the discussion, we were talking about Addis Ababa, probably millions of people in the capital city. If an investor comes and say, I want to deploy, let's say to half of that, 1 million customers, what are the deployment models that will enable the deployment to be easy, and that will, let me say, will facilitate the capital investments. So you don't want multiple capital investments for things that can be mutualized. There are some models in other countries whereby the last mile can be built by the municipality, and the service provider come and connect to that mutualized access node. And then from there, you connect the last mile, the last client. And if he's not, or the client is not happy, he can change from provider A to provider B without having fiber, like 6 fibers going to the same home. Okay, so that's all about. So data center and local web hosting services. The three main recommendation is about enabling good investment environment for data centers. It's very important that the data, the blogs, the articles, the music, the movies are sitting in data center locally available in Addis Ababa. So investment incentives can be tax breaks, or equipments related to data center build as well be exempted of certain tax. That can be as well a good thing. Easy process, administrative process. We ask someone in the group, how is it easy for someone to go and start an investment in data center? He said it takes time, and there is heavy administrative processes for you to get started. So these are the things that need to be done. Reliable and affordable power sources. I've heard that here power is not an issue, or the cost of power is not an issue. Where I am coming from, they had to be a special arrangement for data center operators to have a special price, because the price of power in Rwanda is quite expensive. Promoting and encouraging online presence. So the data center operators are there, they're keen to come, but if they don't have clients, it doesn't make sense. So there should be a push for businesses and public to have online presence. That can be an SME, a shop, a travel agency. They need to be online, so that we create demand, so that the data center service providers have clients. And one thing which is very important, there will be a component of job creation, because today there are people who would have to create those websites, web developers, and domain name registrars. Those are the type of businesses that will be created around that second recommendation. The last one is about passing law bills that protect local data management. It's a little bit, what would be the word, passing the bills that protect local data management? It's a little bit tricky, the way it is written. It doesn't necessarily mean that all the data have to be located in the country, but some bills or some laws may encourage the localization of data within the country. So being medical record, financial information, in other countries, they tend to be localized in the country, and they create a demand or a reason for data centers to be located in the country. The last one is about the engineering skill sets. Three main actions that can help the creation of local NOGs, the participation of these forum, EITF, ICANN, IEEE, AFNOG, ISOC chapter, training and events. All those events create opportunities for people to learn about the internet and how to operate and manage the infrastructure. And there was a very important recommendation about creating a linkage between the industry and the high learning institutions, which is, I think, relevant, that as well needs to be explored. Okay, so those are the three main recommendations, but going forward, the remaining points as well remain very important. There is already investment as far as core backbone and optical infrastructure is concerned, but there is a need to develop that in other regions, metropolitan networks in other cities that are not Addis Ababa. I think that's very important. Local exchange point, I think this is a very important thing, and all these activities can run in parallel. The last one is about increasing R&D capability. Again, high learning institutions are playing a very key role as far as R&D is concerned. So basically, those are the key recommendations as far as the technical track is concerned. And thank you for everyone who participated in the discussion yesterday, and the panelists as well for their contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Gila. Now I'll invite Bethlehem to tell us what happened in the governance track.
Thank you. My name is Bethlehem, and I was part of the governance track. We had 3 panelists that shared their insight on the internet governance concept, and we have also participants, and I'll try to be as fast as possible. We all did a lot of discussions, and based on the concepts raised by the panelists, Malcolm from Linux, Alice from Mozilla, and I'm sure if I did mispronounce her name, I'm sorry, and Marisa from Facebook, they all gave their insight in regarding to the governance concepts. So from that discussion, we tried to prioritize the issue, such as the importance of having local institutions, civil societies in policy and regulation aspect, recognizing the freedoms and things like that. And what we have done after that was try to select the issues and the priorities from the Ethiopian perspective. And we try to merge those points into 3 aspects: the general governance, the general policy and regulation as it being an umbrella. And after that, we try to discuss the the governance concepts from the infrastructure, and as well as the governance concepts, the governance issues from the people's centers, and more or less focusing on the content centered issues. So the recommendations, I'm sorry, I think this is more visible. The recommendations and the points that we raised, as I've said it earlier, we divided them into 3. From the policy and the regulation aspect, we understood there should be basic governance principles that should be set, and recognizing the freedom of expression, the freedom of connection, and as well as the right to have available content, local content. And that we gave that recommendation for the government as well as for the regulatory bodies. In addition to that, we also understood the value of multi-sector involvement in the policy making and regulations and the government internet governance. And for that, we gave the regulatory and the government to build a comfortable and trusting environment for the government and the people to sit down and discuss the different issues and create opportunities and open platforms such as IGF for such manners. We also understood the importance of ensuring capacity buildings and creating awareness for the different stakeholders to have an information and understanding about the policy formation. Another thing that we have discussed in regarding to the key policy and regulation aspects was the concept of limiting and blocking the issue of limiting and blocking internet access. And we had a bit of debate in regarding to that issue, and we said rather than limiting the internet access, we have to identify practical solutions. We call them expert level solutions, and that responsibility we assume gave it to the government and as well as from the regulatory aspect. And we also said we need to establish and implement appropriate guidelines to carry out internet shutdowns and limiting internet access as well. That will give us the accountability and as well as transparency in the action that is done. The other issue that is related to the internet governance was the governance issue from the infrastructure perspective. And we understood the importance of, or we discussed on the importance of having reliable and affordable internet access for all. And for that, we tried to give a recommendation on identifying and implementing appropriate cost-effective solutions for the affordable internet access, whether considering the local ISPs, and as well as considering the rural connectivity technical solutions. And we gave that responsibility for the regulatory as well as for the operators or service providers. The other thing in regarding to the issues of governance from the infrastructure perspective was creating a secure and trusting digital environment. As we have different solutions, infrastructure solutions for network connectivity, we have to ensure and maintain the legal framework in terms of having secure infrastructure, and that responsibility should have to be in terms of providing a legal framework should have to be from for the policymakers and as well as the government as well. The last and the third point that we discussed on the governance issue was from the people's perspective, or based on the content centric aspect. And from that, we identified the issue regarding to proper use of internet, resources and internet informations. And we say that, or we discussed on the recommendation of engaging uh, capacity buildings as well as creating public awareness on how to use internet and how to utilize the different available contents. And also we understood the importance of sharing the personal data and ensuring private information privacy as well from that perspective. Another thing as a recommendation that we considered was in regarding to availability of local content. And for the recommendation, we gave the government and the stakeholders to create and enable opportunities and environments to have a protection and recognition for the local contents that are created, and as well as promoting such kinds of uh, environments in terms of distribution of those local contents. I hope I captured all the concepts of the panelists as well as the participants on our track and presenting the concepts. If I missed, I'll be happy to answer any questions. And thank you for all that participated in this particular discussion.
Okay. So I will talk about the development track. Sorry. I'll talk about the development track. My name is Michuki Mwangi. I work for the Internet Society. I was was one of the moderators for the track, but I was equally helped by Solomon Kasa, who was our able moderator for the panel session. We had 4 panelists from Mr. Victor Chalo, who's from Kenya, has been involved with the internet ecosystem there from the very beginning. We had Reg Octon from BRIC. We had Robert from Roha, and we had Noel from Kudu Ventures. One of the things about the development track, or rather the overview of that particular track, was that it was looking at the concept of how the internet is designed from where the basically by design the power of the internet lies on the edge. It means that the control and the innovation lies with the users and allows for what we call permissionless innovation. And so using this approach, how can we develop strategic local initiatives or policies that will empower the local communities to benefit from the internet? So those are some of the areas we were looking at. And the topic areas that we aim to look at were positioning the local workforce, bringing internet everywhere, attracting investment, building a strong internet economy, enhancing local entrepreneurship, and encouraging content providers and service providers within Ethiopia. So we had a lot of discussions on all of these topics, but because of time, I will not go through all the points that came up. But some of the things I'll just like to quickly mention is that when it came to the issue of positioning the local workforce, the panelists felt that it was important to make sure that there is a focus on capacity building. I think, and with the understanding that no single organization can actually deliver or on all the capacity building requirements that are needed. On the topic of bringing internet everywhere, I think there was a clear understanding of how this can be done more efficiently using best practices like infrastructure sharing, building internet exchange points, and enabling the investment of things like terrestrial fiber and data centers. On attracting investment, I think one of the things that came up here is the issue of eliminating any uncertainties that can chase away or make investors shy away from the market. And that came up very clearly. But most importantly is the role that government can play in actually encouraging the investments to take place at the local level. On building a strong internet economy, there were quite a number of issues that came up here, but strategically, the value of coming up with a local strategy that would make sure that all aspects are looked into by the private sector and also policymakers. And one of the things which I thought was quite interesting that was picked up here was the fact that government should maintain an open door policy where it should remain accessible to people who are trying to invest or make efforts to contribute to the development of that the local internet economy. Finally, on enhancing local entrepreneurship, again, policymakers should try and identify ways of developing partnerships with international organizations, but also take into consideration that they need to strengthen the local organizations so that they are not disadvantaged, and see how they can leverage the international organizations and local organizations and make sure that they pair them in a way that will bring equal value and benefit to the local economy. So, and finally, I think the final thing we talked about was content providers. And on this, we took, there was quite a lot of passion around content provision and service provision. And one of the things that stood out was the fact that Ethiopia has a lot of advantages because of the unique language and how this can be leveraged and basically enable content producers to emerge and take advantage of this open space and produce the local content. And so quite a number of issues around how do we support the emergence of local content providers, the content platforms, local content platforms, and also basically leverage on end user access to have access to that, which goes back to issues like having the right infrastructure that has been discussed by the technical groups. So we see a lot of cross-cutting issues from both the development track and the technical track. So as a result, the roundtable came up with 3 focus areas. Obviously, content development came up on top. That seemed to have been something that was quite interesting. Shared infrastructure, and then access to devices and capital. Here, there were quite a number of recommendations that came out, especially looking at content development. And I will not go through all of them, but what was really clear is that there needs to be a strategic thinking and around how do we empower the community as a whole to leverage on this opportunity and get more content development happening in Ethiopia, and also the hosting to be done locally. So it's multifaceted. It's also looking at the end user, not just looking at the production. How do we encourage consumption as well? On infrastructure and shared infrastructure, there were a couple of points that came up, but specifically promoting infrastructure sharing strategies, because that is needed on efficient use of existing infrastructure. And there were quite a number of experiences that were shared in terms of how infrastructure can be duplicated, but not used efficiently. And so no one really benefits. It's only investments that are going on the ground. And that raises the costs of access as opposed to lowering it. And so there was a need to look at that from a strategic point of view. Finally, on access to devices and capital, one of the things that stood out here is there's really a need to create digital literacy and awareness, so that when people are investing in devices, they're actually able to identify the value that they will get from those devices. And of course, other initiatives that can be implemented, like taxation or eliminating taxation on devices, or even going to the extent of encouraging manufacturing of local devices at the local level. So in summary, we were able to identify the priorities and put them into 3 phases, which is the short term, medium term, and the long term. And the short term basically is to develop and implement capacity building strategies. The whole team and group discussion seemed to really feel that for them to take advantage of what's happening over the next 2 or so years, capacity building needs to be at the forefront of what needs to be done, so that everybody is able to identify the opportunities, leverage on the emerging opportunities, and contribute to the growth of that internet economy that's going to be realized over the next short period of time as the market opens. And in the medium term, it's to develop those strategies that influence adoption and adaptation of the technology. And the example that was given here is what China has done, is where they were actually able to adopt the technology, then adapt it means enhance that technology for their own benefit. And so these are some of the strategies that will need to be deliberately built. So enhancing the access, removing all the barriers, and then getting people to actually do more with it as opposed to just being consumers. So that is a medium-term component. On the long term, it will be develop those strategies that contribute to the strengthening of that internet economy. So looking at partnerships, looking at the innovation and incubation hubs, addressing all the barriers like cross-border interconnection, opening up the market beyond Ethiopia, doing a lot more of R&D, and also the continuous capacity building. So that, in a nutshell, concludes what we discussed in the development track. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank our moderator and the speakers and the panelists that we had, and also everyone else who participated in the roundtables, because this really gives us a good set of recommendations that we can share with all the stakeholders, and for them to identify the roles that they can play in contributing to that development in the coming years. So with that, I'd like to stop there and say thank you very much. And I don't know if we have time to take one or two comments or feedback, or we can proceed to the next session because of time. David.
And everyone, I think it was very important that we have this session, because we want to take something out of this meeting. And the most important part is what happened yesterday afternoon, because we wanted everybody to participate and come up with recommendations that we will all take, and we will make sure that you will get those recommendations well prepared, so that there's no one single organization that will do that. It's everybody will work together. Before the next session, I would like to ask everybody, if that is possible, to complete this feedback form online. I think it's possible to scan from there, or do they have to come over here? I think from there it works. Okay, so if you have QR code reader, barcode, QR code reader, you can do it from there. If not, we'll give you a few minutes until, there is the link that you can use. So you can do it that way as well. So I think we'll leave it there until the next session, the keynote speech that we have all been waiting for will start. So I would like to thank, first of all, this panel for the excellent job, and then invite Solomon. I don't see him. Okay, he's there. I don't think he needs introduction again, but thank you for accepting to moderate this important session. And then I think I will leave it to you to introduce our guest of honor. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you.